Masego Shiburi, and next to him, I'm with Grenville Abrahams. Both the three of us will make sure that South Africa is updated. DC Shiburi?
Stations nationwide. Percent of the stations operational within minutes of the commencement time of 8 o'clock in the morning. We pass a word of gratitude to the 68,700 electoral staff who are manning those stations and doing country duty. In the initial hours of this two-day registration weekend, an impressive 304,221 have visited voting stations. Citizens remain engaged with affairs of their country. Today alone, the online comes on the back of two major achievements by the Electoral Commission, and these are that the National Voters Roll has for the first time surpassed the 27 million mark. Return on investment in that for the first time, registration activity outside of voting stations has surpassed the 200,000 mark between November last year and today. To date, 498,000 persons have transacted on the online platform since the last registration. Placed, mislaid, or lost their identity documents. They may receive these replacement documents from the Department of Home Affairs. The Department of Home Affairs will maintain its network of offices open today and tomorrow to assist those category of citizens. The Commission wishes to extend its for enabling citizens to participate in affairs of their country. It is important to reiterate that our collective goal as a nation remains to ensure that every one of the eligible voters in South Africa is registered to do so, whether they do so by visiting any of the 23,303 voting stations or registering online. It is therefore worth repeating what the scheme of the law is, and that is a person registers and votes in a voting district where they ordinarily reside. And for this election, it will not be possible for a voter to vote outside the voting district at which they are not registered without further giving notice to the chief vote outside their voting district and also to indicate the details of that other voting district following the announcement of the election date. In conclusion, the Commission encourages all eligible voters to seize the remaining hours of the registration weekend to visit their station or to go online to register for purposes of participation in the forthcoming election. This is your domain.
Thank you so much, DC Shiburi. I'm going to open the floor for questions. Any questions of clarity? The floor is open. May I see a show of hands as well as the media house where you come from? Thank you so much. Let me start with you, Natasha.
Here from SABC News. Mr. Shiburi, I think, could you just also clarify one issue? And I think a lot of people are getting it wrong, including, leaders of political parties. We've been hearing people saying that this is a final voter registration. I think this is a final voter registration. People can still register to vote. Yes, people can still register online and, of course, at the various IEC offices. Can you just please clarify that to South Africans? Furthermore, there was inmate voter registration this week. What are the figures? How many inmates registered to vote? And then there are no protests. Can you just also please just clarify that for us? Thank you.
From Kaya 959, Mr. Shiburi, could you remind us again about the etiquette of political parties at voting stations? Just in terms of, in a way, not being invasive to people who've come to register, obviously political parties campaigning for their own, parties, but just what are the rules around what they should and shouldn't do? And just an update on the disaster-struck areas, Western Cape with the fires, as well as in KZN with the floods, temporary structures, is that going well?
Question that I'm missing at the back, are we covered? Okay, let's proceed. DCO will have a
First things, the voter registration at a voting station affords or extends convenience to voters. So it is a targeted period at which we extend convenience. However, registration is a continuous exercise. A person can register at any point, whether at a local office or online. The only consideration being that a person must have been proclaimed in order to take part as a voter in those elections. So voter registrations remains open until the date on which the declares the date of an election. The etiquette of parties at voting stations. Parties are allowed to be represented at registration points by a party agent. A party agent may observe the process. Parties are also permitted to maintain temporary, may not undertake any political activity within the boundaries of a voting station. Similarly, a person who is accredited as a party agent cannot wear party outlawed. All political activity is outlawed only within the boundaries of a voting station. The questions related to disaster in the Western Cape, fortunately, or in fixed facilities. So we are up and running. I'll ask Granville to deal with the question related to the registration of inmates.
Right. Then Section 24B applies to them. And what Section 24B says is that on voting day, inmate is registered. It does not really matter where he is registered. So I'm saying that up front because it could impact, and also if you have any follow-up questions as to why the numbers visits, and I think we have about 180 facilities that we had visited. Secondly, I must also add is that inmates do not necessarily have access to ID documents, and we are satisfied that with the exercise that we have done this weekend, that we've made available a facility.
let me check if there's any other hands. Okay. I see one here. I see Natasha. Let's proceed, please.
This week mentioned something about possible interference from government to mitigate those possible fears.
And then just the question on protests, have there been any incidents?
From the premise that there isn't any and that there won't be any. However, the saving grace is that our voting processes is in the presence of party agents and observers where they are present. And we then continue then to automate our results onto a result system. But whatever result we pull them out 100%, we think our system is such that we are not exposed to any risk because there is no transmission of results or transmission of to minimize and mitigate the risk of illicit interference in the results announced. Big electoral activity in the country. There are those persons who unfortunately still feel the need to link their grievance to the electoral process and thereby impede the rights of other separation on our part. It's because the situation is such that we do not want to expose persons at risk unnecessarily. We are, however, working with the South African Police Service.
So much, Team IEC. Looks like all the issues have been dealt with. Our platforms remain open. WhatsApp will share the statement digitally. speedily. But for now, I must say that the work is outside. Thank you so much for the rolling coverage from members of the media that are doing a very sterling work.